15 engineers failed, but a humble cleaning lady found the solution in just 1 minute. And what the millionaire CEO did next surprised everyone. Before we get into the story, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Maria Gonzalez was pushing her electric vacuum cleaner through the robotics laboratory on the 15th floor of TechFlow Industries, when she knew that the giant machine's silence was anything but normal. Usually, the RoboAssembly Pro 500 would run 24 hours a day, making rhythmic sounds as it welded metal parts together. Now it stood like a sleeping giant, a $5 million technological marvel, completely silent. Maria was 45 years old, a widowed mother of 2 children. She had been doing cleaning work for 15 years, and since she started working at TechFlow, she had been cleaning these machines every night for 3 years. Unlike other cleaning staff, Maria didn't just clean, she also observed. She was curious. She asked questions. Why is this machine so important? She had asked in her first week to shift worker Tom Rodriguez. Tom had laughed. Maria, this machine is the heart of the company. It produces $500,000 worth of products every day. Every hour it's down, the company loses money. That night, Maria had walked around the machine more carefully. She had examined its large metal body, complex arms, blinking LED lights, trying to understand how this technological beast worked. Now, 3 weeks later, that machine was completely still. And 15 engineers, along with $500,000 in daily losses, couldn't find a solution. David Chen was 38 years old, the CEO of TechFlow Industries. A Harvard Business School graduate with 15 years of experience in Silicon Valley, he was a visionary who had transformed his company from a $10 million startup into a $500 million tech giant. But right now, in his corner office on the 23rd floor, looking at the 15 engineers gathered around the conference table, he was experiencing one of the most difficult days of his life. "Status report," he said in a cold voice. Dr. James Wilson, 52 years old, an MIT graduate and chief engineer, adjusted his glasses and spoke. "Mr. Chen, the machine stopped suddenly 3 weeks ago. We checked the software systems, ran hardware diagnostics, calibrated all sensors. We checked electrical systems, pneumatic systems, even reset to factory defaults. Nothing worked." 3 weeks, David repeated, his anger growing. 3 weeks means $10.5 million in losses. There are 15 engineers here, taking a total of $2 million in annual salaries. And what you're telling me is that you don't know why you can't get this machine running. The engineers looked at each other. Young engineer Sarah Park spoke. "Mr. Chen, this machine is extremely complex. 10,000 lines of code, 500 different sensors, 12 different subsystems. Finding which layer the problem is in—" "I don't care," David interrupted. "How do I explain this to clients? We have a $50 million order waiting from Japan, a $30 million offer from Germany. If this machine doesn't work, we lose our contracts." Dr. Wilson took a deep breath. "We could consider bringing in an external consultant. There's a Swiss firm that specializes in robotic systems." "No," David said firmly. "This will be solved internally. I'm giving you 1 more week, 1 week. Otherwise, it's time for all of you to look for new jobs." When the meeting ended, the engineers dispersed in desperation. For 3 weeks, they had tried every technical solution, worked day and night, but nothing had worked. That night, Maria started work at 11 p.m. as usual. The night shift was quiet, with only a security guard and a few maintenance technicians around. Maria took the elevator to the 15th floor and entered the robotics laboratory. The RoboAssembly Pro 500 stood there in the center of the laboratory with its massive dimensions. 3 meters high, 5 meters wide, its shiny metal surface reflecting the laboratory's neon lights. Around the machine were tables, computers, electronic testing equipment, cables. It looked like an operating room. Maria pulled her cleaning cart closer and began her routine work. First, she swept the floor under the machine, then wiped the machine's surface with a special cleaning cloth. But as she always did, she didn't just clean. She observed. "Strange," she murmured to herself. The red light is on, but didn't the engineers notice this? On the right side of the machine in the corner, a small red light was blinking. Maria had cleaned this machine for 3 years and had never seen this light like this. Normally it would glow green. She was curious. She looked closer. Under the red light was small text. Emergency STOP, active emergency stop. Maria thought, emergency shutdown? She didn't know English very well, but she was familiar with basic words. Her son Diego was a high school senior and sometimes taught her English words. Maria examined the area around the red light more carefully. Right next to the light was a large red button. The button seemed to be stuck inward. Ah, said Maria, suddenly understanding. The button is stuck. In 3 years of cleaning this machine every night, she had never seen this button like this. Normally the button would stick out, but now it remained pressed inward. Maria put on her gloves and carefully approached the button. If it's an emergency stop button, the machine might not be working because of this, she thought. She reached out and gently touched the button. The button wouldn't move. It seemed stuck. If I free this button, will the machine work? She wondered. Maria took a small screwdriver from her cleaning cart. She carefully examined around the button. There was a small plastic piece at the edge of the button, and this piece seemed to be preventing the button from returning to its normal position. Just a small plastic piece, she said to herself. It's stuck here. She carefully pushed the plastic piece with the screwdriver. A click sound was heard and the button suddenly popped out. At the same time, all the lights in the laboratory suddenly came alive. The LED lights on the machine started blinking. A buzz sound was heard and the machine came to life. Wow, said Maria, stepping back. The robo-assembly Pro 500 slowly began to operate. Its mechanical arms started moving. The conveyor belt began turning. All systems started working in sync. For the first time in 3 weeks, the machine was making its normal sounds. This can't be, Maria murmured. It can't be this simple. But it was real. The machine was working perfectly. Maria immediately called security guard Carlos. Carlos, emergency. The machine in the laboratory started working. What? Said Carlos in amazement. How is that possible, Maria? The engineers worked on it for 3 weeks. I don't know, but it's working. Please call the managers. Carlos immediately called factory manager Robert Kim. Robert got up from his home at midnight and came to the factory. When he saw Maria and the working machine in the laboratory, he froze. Maria, did you get this machine working? Yes, Mr. Kim. The red button was stuck. I freed it. Which red button? Maria pointed to the emergency stop button. This button. It says emergency stop. It was stuck, so the machine wasn't working. Robert looked at the button, then at the working machine, then back at Maria. Maria, why didn't you tell anyone the moment you noticed? Maria shrugged. Nobody asked me. I'm just a cleaning lady. Nobody takes my opinion. Robert immediately called David Chen. Mr. Chen, the machine is working. What? David almost dropped the phone. How is that possible? Nobody's working at this hour. Cleaning lady Maria got it working. The emergency stop button was stuck. She noticed it. David hung up without saying anything and immediately jumped in his car. 30 minutes later, he was at the factory. When he entered the laboratory, the machine was working perfectly. For the first time in 3 weeks, those familiar rhythmic sounds filled the laboratory. Maria, said David, out of breath. Did you get this machine working? Yes, Mr. Chen. The button was stuck. I fixed it. David looked at the emergency stop button. Indeed, the button appeared normal. How did you notice? I observe while cleaning every night. Tonight the red light was on. Normally it glows green. I was curious, so I looked. David looked at Maria, a 45-year-old woman wearing a cleaning uniform with a tired but kind face. She had solved in 1 minute a problem that 15 of his engineers couldn't solve in 3 weeks. Maria, David said slowly, do you understand this machine? I don't understand it, Mr. Chen. I just observe. I'm here every night for 3 years. I know how the machine works. Which sounds are normal? Which lights are normal? David nodded. Maria, do you realize what you've done? Every day this machine is down, the company loses $500,000. We lost $10.5 million over 3 weeks. I'm sorry, Mr. Chan. If I had noticed earlier, No, David said quickly. You're not apologizing. You saved the company. The next morning, David called all the engineering team to a meeting. When Dr. Wilson and his team entered the conference room, they didn't understand the expression they saw on David's face. There was no anger, no disappointment either. There was a strange mixture, shame, amazement, and determination to change things. Ladies and gentlemen, said David. Last night, the Robo-Assembly Pro 5000 started working. Silence fell over the conference room. Dr. Wilson spoke. Mr. Chin, that's great news. Which solution worked? A new software update? No, said David. The person who found the solution is not in this room. Did you bring in an external consultant? Asked Sarah Park. No, the solution was found by cleaning lady Maria Gonzalez. The room fell into heavy silence. The 15 engineers looked at each other. Dr. Wilson spoke in amazement. Mr. Chen, that's impossible. A cleaning lady doesn't have technical knowledge, Stop, said David, raising his hand. Listen. David told Maria's story. The emergency stop button had been stuck for 3 weeks. None of the engineers had noticed. Because they had all been looking for complex technical solutions, missing the simple mechanical problem. So, said Dr. Wilson, his voice trembling, for 3 weeks, just a button, Just a button, David confirmed. Maria cleans this machine every night. You know the machine from resources, I know it from a business perspective. But she knows the machine from a life perspective. To her, the machine is a living being. Young engineer Sarah Park spoke with shame. Mr. Chan, we didn't check the emergency stop button because because it seemed too simple. We were looking for more complex problems. Exactly, said David. And that's our biggest mistake, ego, pride, dismissing simple solutions. David stood up and walked toward the glass wall. Maria Gonzalez has been doing cleaning work for 15 years. High school graduate, no technical education. But she saved our company. What will you do? Asked Dr. Wilson. First, I'm promoting Maria. She's now quality control manager. She oversees machine operations. Her salary is going from $35,000 to $85,000. The engineers looked on in amazement. Second, David continued, I'm giving Maria a $100,000 bonus. She gets shares in the company. Third, and most importantly, said David, turning to the engineers, you'll all learn from Maria. You'll work with her. Because she sees the machine from a perspective you don't. Dr. Wilson bowed his head. Mr. Chan, you're right. We We were blinded by our pride. Not pride, said David. System. We trusted too much in the diploma system, the hierarchy system. We saw knowledge as something that exists only on paper. But real knowledge is experience and observation. To give Maria the news, David personally went up to the 10th floor. Maria was cleaning around the machine as usual. This time the machine was working and Maria was cleaning it with a smile. Maria, said David. Yes, Mr. Chan? I want to talk to you. Privately. Maria moved her cleaning cart aside and followed David. They went up to David's office. Maria, please sit, said David in a gentle voice. Maria sat in the large leather chair. This was the first time she had been in the CEO's office. Glass walls, city view, expensive furniture. It was very different from her own world. Maria, said David, what you did last night was extraordinary. I just did my job, Mr. Chen. No, you did more than that. You saved our company. We lost $10.5 million, but you prevented further losses. Maria listened silently. That's why I want to make you several offers, said David. First, you're no longer a cleaning lady. I'm appointing you as quality control manager. You'll monitor machines, observe operations, identify problems. Maria's eyes widened. Mr. Chan, I'm just a cleaning lady. No, you're not. You're an observer. You have learning ability. You have experience. And most importantly, you don't have an ego problem. Salary? $85,000 a year. Triple increase. Maria couldn't speak. $85,000 a year was a figure she had never dreamed of. Second, David continued, I'm giving you a $100,000 bonus. Right now. David took out his checkbook from his desk and wrote a check for $100,000. This is a thank you check for saving our company. When Maria saw the check, tears began to flow. Mr. Chen, this is too much. No, it's not enough. Third, you'll get shares in the company. You'll be a partner now. Maria was crying now. For 15 years, she had worked from morning to night, struggled to raise her 2 children, lived counting every penny. Now, 1 minute of observation was completely changing her life. Maria, said David in a soft voice, don't cry. You deserve this. Mr. Chen, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. I'm thanking you. You taught me an important lesson. What lesson? Knowledge is not in diplomas but in experience. Solutions can be simple, not complex. And most importantly, we can learn from everyone. Maria took the check and carefully put it in her purse. Mr. Chen, I'll use this money for my children's education. Diego wants to go to university. Sophia wants to study medicine. Now I can support them. Perfect, said David. They'll learn from their mother. How to observe, how to be curious, how to look for simple solutions. Maria stood up. Mr. Chen, can I ask a question? Of course. Why? Why do you value me so much? You're not just a cleaning lady, said David firmly. You're a problem solver. You're an observer. You have learning ability. And you don't have an ego problem. People with these qualities are very rare. Maria smiled. Thank you, Mr. Chen. I won't disappoint you. I know, because you're truly intelligent. Maria was eager to give the news to her children. When she got home that evening, Diego and Sophia were watching television. Children, said Maria excitedly, I have something to tell you. What happened, Mom? Asked Diego. Today, something happened at work. A very important machine broke down. Engineers couldn't fix it. I fixed it. Sophia looked curiously. How did you fix it, Mom? Just by observing. I've been cleaning that machine for 3 years. I know how it works. What happened then? Asked Diego. Maria took out the check. The boss gave me this check and tripled my salary. Diego and Sophia looked at the check in amazement. Mom, is this real? It's real. And now I'm quality control manager. Not a cleaning lady anymore? Sophia hugged her mother. Mom, you're amazing! No, children, I just observed. I was curious. I asked questions. You should do the same. School isn't just about reading books. It's about observing your environment, asking questions, being curious. Diego looked at his mother with pride. Mom, you're my hero. No, Diego, heroes have superpowers. I was just careful. That night, lying in bed, Maria thought about how her life had changed. For 15 years, she had cleaned up after others, remained invisible, never spoke up. Now, 1 minute of courage had completely changed her life. The next week, Maria moved to her new office. The quality control manager office was on the 18th floor. The window overlooked the city. On her desk were a computer, phone, and most importantly, monitors to observe machine operations. On the first day, Dr. Wilson and the engineering team visited Maria to show respect. Miss Maria, said Dr. Wilson with shame. I apologize. Not valuing you was a big mistake. No problem, Dr. Wilson. You have technical knowledge. I just have observation ability. If we work together, we'll be better. You're right. From now on, we'll get your opinion on machine problems. Thank you. But I'll just share my observations. The decisions are still yours. Dr. Wilson was impressed by Maria's humility. Despite all these changes, she wasn't developing an ego problem. Maria's first success in a new position came in the second month. Another machine started making strange sounds. The engineers again focused on technical analysis. But Maria listened to the machine and said, there's a problem in the lubrication system. Indeed, there was a small malfunction in the lubrication pump. Thanks to early detection, a major breakdown was prevented. In the third month, a special training program was prepared for Maria. She would learn engineering fundamentals, machine operations, quality control principles. But she wouldn't lose her own observation abilities. "Maria," said trainer John Parker, "you have natural talent. If you learn technical knowledge, you'll be very powerful." "But I don't want to lose my simplicity," said Maria. "If I learn to think complexly, I might not see simple solutions." "Don't worry, you'll always think with your heart. Technical knowledge will just be a tool." In the 6th month, thanks to Maria's suggestions, production efficiency increased by 15%. Machine breakdowns decreased by 40%. The company saved $5 million annually thanks to Maria's participation. When David Chen saw these results, he was amazed. "Maria, you didn't just save the company, you made it better." "Thank you, Mr. Chen. But this is teamwork. The engineers supported me." A year later, TechFlow Industries had made Maria's story the center of company culture. The principle, "everyone is a teacher, everyone is a student," became part of company values. Diego applied to MIT to study engineering. In his application letter, he wrote about the observation ability he learned from his mother and the importance of being curious. He was accepted. Sophia applied to Harvard to study medicine. She wrote that she was inspired by her mother's ability to find simple solutions. She was also accepted. David Chan presented Maria's story as a case study at Harvard Business School. He gave his presentation titled, "Real Leadership is Creating Value, Not Hierarchy." 2 years later, Maria became a member of TechFlow Industries' board of directors. Now she had a say in company decisions. But she still went down to the factory floor once a week to observe the machines. Because she never forgot her roots. "Maria," David said one day, "you haven't changed." "Success didn't change you. Why should I change?" said Maria with a smile. "I'm still the same Maria. I can just help more people now." 3 years later, Maria's story became a cover story in Harvard Business Review. It was published with the title, "The Janitor Who Revolutionized Silicon Valley." The article analyzed how companies miss visible information due to their hierarchical structures. 4 years later, Maria was invited to speak at TED Talks. Her talk titled, "The Power of Simple Solutions," was viewed 20 million times. Maria said on stage, "I'm not an engineer, I don't have a PhD, but for 15 years I lived in the machine world. I didn't just clean them, I listened to them, I respected the machines, and they whispered their secrets to me." Most of the time, solutions are not complex, they're simple. But our pride prevents us from seeing simple solutions. Diplomas are certainly important, but experience, observation, curiosity, these are more important. 15 engineers couldn't solve the problem for 3 weeks. I solved it in 1 minute. Why? Because I didn't see the machine as a rival. I saw it as a friend. I listened to what the machine was trying to tell me. At the end of the speech, she received a standing ovation. Among the audience were company CEOs, engineering professors, students. They had all learned from cleaning lady Maria. 5 years later, Maria founded her own consulting company. She named it Practical Solutions, Inc. The company specialized in identifying overlooked simple problems in large firms. Her first client was Toyota's Texas factory. They were experiencing mysterious production line stoppage problems. 20 engineers couldn't solve it for 2 months. Maria observed in the factory for a week and found the problem. The ventilation system was blowing dust particles onto sensors at certain hours. The sensors were stopping the line per safety protocol. A simple filter change solved the problem. Her second client was Apple's China factory. While working on the iPhone production line, Maria noticed that workers were experiencing ergonomic problems. By suggesting small adjustments, she increased production efficiency by 12%. Her third client was Tesla. Elon Musk personally invited Maria. He had introduced her as the woman who sees simple solutions. Maria solved the robot coordination problem at Tesla's Austin factory. A 0.3-second delay between robots was cumulatively creating major inefficiency. The delay was eliminated with Maria's suggestion. Diego graduated from MIT and started working at Tesla. In his first project, he used his mother's methods. First observe, then create solution. He was successful. Sophia finished Harvard Medical School and specialized in pediatrics. In patient examinations, she used the principle her mother taught her of not overlooking simple explanations. Instead of seeking complex diagnoses, she would first check simple causes. 7 years later, Maria's consulting firm was working with half of Fortune 500 companies. The practical solutions method was being taught as a course in business schools. 8 years later, Maria wrote a book, The Janitor's Guide to Problem Solving. The book stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for 52 weeks. It was translated into 30 languages. 10 years later, Maria's story became a movie. The film One Button, starring Jennifer Lopez as Maria, was nominated for an Oscar. The film grossed $400 million worldwide, but Maria, in the midst of all these successes, never forgot her origins. She still went down to the factory floor once a week to visit the machines, because she knew that real knowledge was hidden in experience, not in books. Diego became a project manager at Tesla. He was working on SpaceX rocket projects. Sophia became chief pediatrician at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Both used the principle their mother taught them of not overlooking simple solutions. Maria's grandson, little David, Diego's son, loved going to the factory with his grandmother. At 8 years old, he was learning to observe machines. Maria would tell him, "David, machines are your friends. Listen to them. They'll tell you their secrets." 15 years later, Maria retired at age 60, but retirement for her didn't mean resting, it meant teaching. She became a visiting professor at universities. She taught young people the principle of curiosity, not ego. In her retirement speech, she told TechFlow Industries employees, "I was a 45-year-old cleaning lady. I never thought my life would change, but one night, I was curious. I asked a question. I observed, and my life completely changed." You face problems every day. You look for complex solutions. But sometimes the solution is very simple. You just need to observe. I learned something from you. No one is too old to learn. No one is too inexperienced to teach. Everyone can learn from everyone. 15 engineers couldn't solve the problem for 3 weeks. I solved it in 1 minute. Why? Because I looked from a different angle. You should also look from different angles. Don't overlook simple solutions. Remember, sometimes what changes life is just a button. But to see that button, you need to observe with your heart. Amid applause, Maria stepped down from the podium. David Chan met her. "Maria, you changed my life." "No, David, you changed your own life. I just gave you an opportunity." Opportunity? Yes, an opportunity to learn. An opportunity to solve the ego problem. An opportunity to see simple solutions. That night at home, looking at the family album, Maria thought about how her life had changed. 15 years ago, she was just a cleaning lady. Now she was a world-renowned problem solver. But most importantly, she knew her children looked at her with pride. Diego was working at NASA. Sophia was saving child patients. Both were living with the values their mother taught them. That night, Maria wrote in her diary, "Today I retired. But actually, I never started working. Because what I did was my passion. Being curious, observing, learning, these aren't work, they're a lifestyle. 15 engineers couldn't solve the problem for 3 weeks. I solved it in 1 minute. But this wasn't because I was smart, it was because I looked from a different angle. Life is full of simple solutions. You just need to observe." On the last page of the diary, she drew that famous red button and wrote underneath, "Sometimes what changes life is just a button." Maria's story wasn't just a success story. It was also a story that showed the most beautiful aspects of human nature: curiosity, observation, humility, the desire to learn. And most importantly, Maria's story showed this: everyone at any age, in any situation, can change their life. All that's needed is courage, curiosity, and the ability to seize the right opportunity. Years later, a statue of Maria was erected in the lobby of TechFlow Industries. Under the statue was this inscription: "To Maria Gonzalez, thank you for teaching us. Solutions are simple. What matters is being able to see them." And next to it was a small red button. When visitors touched that button, they understood. Sometimes the biggest revolutions begin with the smallest movements. But Maria's impact extended far beyond tech-flow industries. Her story became a case study at business schools worldwide. Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, and dozens of other prestigious institutions taught the Maria Method approach to problem-solving that emphasized observation over assumption, simplicity over complexity, and humility over hierarchy. Young entrepreneurs would often cite Maria's story when launching their startups. Tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft began implementing Maria protocols, systems that encouraged input from all employees, regardless of their position or educational background. The janitors, security guards, cafeteria workers, and administrative assistants suddenly found their voices being heard in ways they never imagined. Dr. Wilson, who had initially dismissed Maria's capabilities, became one of her strongest advocates. He often spoke at engineering conferences about the dangers of intellectual arrogance. "I spent 30 years believing that complex problems required complex solutions," he would say. "Maria taught me that sometimes the most sophisticated approach is to think simply." Now, whenever we face a technical challenge, the first question we ask is, what would Maria notice that we're missing? Sarah Park, the young engineer who had witnessed Maria's breakthrough, was so inspired that she changed her entire career trajectory. She left traditional engineering to start a consultancy that paired technical experts with frontline workers. Her company, Ground Truth Solutions, became wildly successful by applying Maria's principles across various industries. The emergency stop button that had changed Maria's life became legendary in industrial circles. Equipment manufacturers began designing more intuitive emergency systems, inspired by Maria's observation that critical safety features should be immediately obvious to anyone, regardless of their technical training. The Maria Standard became an unofficial benchmark for industrial design simplicity. But perhaps the most profound change was in how society viewed different types of intelligence. Before Maria's story went viral, there had been an unspoken hierarchy. PhD holders at the top, followed by college graduates, then high school graduates, and finally, those without formal education at the bottom. Maria's success shattered this artificial construct. Universities began offering practical intelligence courses, where students learned to value experiential knowledge alongside theoretical understanding. Companies started hiring Maria consultants, employees whose primary qualification wasn't their degree, but their ability to observe, ask questions, and think differently. The ripple effects reached into unexpected areas. Hospitals began listening more carefully to janitors and orderlies, who often noticed patient behavioral changes before medical staff. Police departments started valuing input from community members who observed neighborhood patterns. Even NASA began consulting maintenance crews who had intimate knowledge of spacecraft systems from their daily interactions. Maria's children became symbols of how one person's transformation could impact generations. Diego, now leading SpaceX's Mars mission preparations, would often say, "My mother taught me that the most important question isn't, how smart am I? But what am I not seeing?" Sophia, treating children with rare diseases, applied her mother's observational techniques to notice subtle symptoms that traditional diagnostic protocols might miss. The Maria Gonzalez Foundation, established on the 10th anniversary of her breakthrough, provided scholarships specifically for children of service workers, janitors, cleaners, security guards, and maintenance staff. The foundation operated on the principle that intelligence and potential exist everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. At the foundation's annual gala, held in the same Tech Flow building where Maria had made her discovery, speakers from around the world shared stories of how her example had changed their lives. A former janitor who became a successful architect, a cleaning lady who earned her engineering degree at age 55, a security guard who invented a revolutionary surveillance system. David Chan, now in his 50s, often reflected on how Maria had saved more than just his company. She had saved his soul. "Before Maria, I measured success by how much smarter I was than others," he would tell young entrepreneurs. "After Maria, I measured success by how much I could learn from others." That shift in perspective didn't just make me a better CEO. It made me a better human being, The company culture at TechFlow became legendary in Silicon Valley. Employees at all levels were encouraged to question, observe, and suggest improvements. The traditional hierarchy still existed for operational purposes, but when it came to problem solving, every voice was valued equally. The company's motto, inspired by Maria's breakthrough, became "Genius wears many uniforms." As Maria entered her 70s, she remained active as a speaker and consultant. Her TED Talk had spawned dozens of similar presentations, creating an entire genre of hidden wisdom stories. But she always emphasized that her story wasn't unique. It was just one example of the countless brilliant observations made by overlooked people every day. The difference, she would say, wasn't that I was smarter than those engineers. The difference was that someone finally listened. In her final interview before fully retiring from public speaking, Maria was asked what she hoped her legacy would be. Her answer was characteristically simple and profound. "I hope people remember that intelligence isn't about the diploma on your wall or the title on your business card. It's about paying attention to the world around you with curiosity and respect. Every person you meet knows something you don't. Every problem you face has been noticed by someone who isn't considered an expert. The real skill isn't having all the answers, it's knowing how to find them by listening to the right voices." The interviewer pressed her about the specific moment when she decided to touch that red button, asking if she had been afraid of causing damage or getting in trouble. Maria laughed, her eyes twinkling with the same curiosity that had started it all. "Afraid? No, I wasn't afraid. I was curious. Fear stops us from learning. Curiosity opens doors we didn't even know existed. That button wasn't just stuck in the machine, it was stuck in our thinking. Sometimes you have to push past what seems impossible to discover what's actually very simple." When asked about the 15 engineers who had struggled for 3 weeks, Maria's response showed the grace that had defined her entire journey. Those engineers weren't failures. They were highly intelligent people trapped by the very knowledge that made them experts. They knew so much about how things could go wrong that they forgot to look at what was obviously wrong. "I didn't solve the problem because I was smarter. I solved it because I was free to see what they couldn't." And when the interviewer asked if she ever missed her old life as a cleaning lady, Maria's answer surprised everyone. "I never stopped being a cleaning lady. I just expanded what I was cleaning. Instead of cleaning just machines, I started cleaning up misconceptions. Instead of wiping away dust, I wiped away assumptions. The skills were always the same: attention to detail, respect for the tools you're working with, and the understanding that every small action matters. The only thing that changed was the scale of what I was cleaning." 15 engineers had failed, but a humble cleaning lady found the solution in just 1 minute. And what the millionaire CEO did next truly surprised everyone. He didn't just give Maria a promotion, he showed her respect, learned from her, and allowed her to change her life. But more than that, he let her change the world's understanding of where wisdom can be found. What did you think of Maria's story? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our heartwarming stories.